Have your reference sheet out too, along with worksheet 8. I have a warm-up here. I probably shouldn't have started the video yet, but that's okay. Here's the warm-up. Oh, it turned them back on. I wanted them off. Don't look, don't look, don't look. Okay. Find a hyperbola. The bottom one? Bottom two? The bottom two are the same thing, the same shape, but they're not hyperbolas. Anybody know what they are? They're parabolas because they only have one squared. Okay? Which way is this first one going to go right here that I have my little finger on down there? That has a y squared, so it's going to open left or right, and the 4p is positive, so it's going to open to the right. Yay. Okay, this one has an x squared. Okay, so it's going to open up because it's positive, but they put that 12 on the wrong side. It should be over here. It should be a 1/12. So that means p is really tiny. So what should that do? Oh, very teeny tiny up there. Okay. Now, what's going on with this one right up here? Who said circle? Good job. It isn't, it's written kind of like an ellipse, but if you divide everything by 16, you're going to have over 4 and over 4, or you divide everything by 4, it's equal to 4. So it's a very round ellipse, otherwise known as a circle. Okay, what about this first one? It's actually not a circle because it doesn't have anything here, but it has a 3 here, so it's stretched differently. Yeah, that is an ellipse. Whoops, there we go. All right, I'm going to change, this, by the way, was the hyperbola because it has a negative in front of one of them, okay? I don't know what that says, 196. So we could definitely change the form of that, but that one is a hyperbola, okay? Opening sideways. If I were to change this to a minus in here, what's that going to be? Opening which way? This x is positive, right? The x quantity is positive, so it is going to open sideways still. If I left this a plus in here, it does some weird absolute value-y kind of stuff. Okay, if I make the negative out front, then this one opens up and down. All right, just a quick little warm-up. Back to our lesson here, our regularly scheduled programming. Our learning targets today are these bottom ones, more about writing equations of hyperbolas and eccentricity. But we're going to start with a quick review. Do you guys have this one? Okay, so help me. Where's the center? Okay, first of all, which one am I looking at on the reference sheet? Hyperbola and the one on the left for hyperbolas or the one on the right? The one that opens this way, is that the one on the right? Okay, so this is y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. It helps to write that, okay? So h is 1, k is 0, a is what? And b is 2. So the center is at 1, 0, which would be here. The center is actually not part of our graph, but it tells us how to graph the auxiliary rectangle. I go 4 units in which direction? It's under the y, so I go up 4 and down 4. And I go left and right 2 from the center, and then I can draw my auxiliary rectangle. Sometimes students don't draw the auxiliary rectangle because it's not on the reference sheet. That's a problem. It says right in the directions, draw your auxiliary rectangle. Because you can't accurately, let me try that again. You can't accurately draw the asymptotes very well if you don't have that auxiliary rectangle. Now mine aren't very good, but okay. Do I draw my loops at the top or bottom, left or right? The y squared meant top and bottom. So it touches at the top of the box right there. At what point was that? Let's see, the formula should be h comma k plus or minus a. Is that the right formula? Anybody checking for vertices for me? Is that right? So that would be 1 comma plus or minus 4, right? So since there's nothing to add and subtract, we have 1, 4, 1, negative 4. Those are our vertices. What do you want to do next? To find c, okay. C is the square root of a squared plus b squared, which are, so it's the square root of 20 or 2 square roots of 5. So those would be added and subtracted onto the center. Square root of 20 is like 4 point something. Okay, 4.5. So it's just barely inside here and down here, which it has to be. If it shows up inside the rectangle, we did something wrong. What am I still missing? Asymptotes, and they go through what point? The point we're putting in is the center, so it's y minus 0 equals plus or minus some slope, and then x minus 1. The slope is change in y over change in x, but remember, we got to square root those. So it's a over b, or 4 over 2, which would reduce to 2. Can you read that, guys? It's basically y equals plus or minus 2 times the quantity x minus 1. Is that everything we needed? I feel pretty good about that one. All right, then completing the square on number 2. For the x's, we just need to group them together. But what do we need to do to the y's? The leading coefficient has to be positive 1. So what do I need to do? I have to take a negative 4 out, and I can't tell you how this messes students up. So we have y squared, but if I take a negative 4 out of positive 24, I get negative 6y. And then I'm going to move that 36 over the other side. Okay, I'll write it one more time with some blanks. X squared minus 4x plus blank, and then minus 4 times the quantity y squared minus 6y plus blank equals positive 36 plus a couple blanks. All right, what is this quantity? Take half, which would be x minus 2. Then square it is a 4, and we added a 4 on the other side. Then it's minus 4 times y minus 3. Watch your signs so much. And then when you square that, you get 9. But what did we really add to that side? Yes, negative 4 times 9, or negative 36. So 36 plus 4 and a negative 36 is just 4. And if I divide everything by 4, I end up with x minus 2, quantity squared over 4, equals, here the 4's divide out. Oh, this is a minus, not an equal, sorry. y minus 3 quantity squared over 1 equals 1. Which way does this one open? Left and right. So a squared is 4, a is 2, b is 1, h is 2, and k is 3. So the center is at 2, 3. How far do I go left and right? Left and right 2, because that was under the x. Up and down I go only 1. I have a little rectangle. Okay, those are really bad diagonals, sorry. And then you said it's opening sideways, so this is a vertice. And this is a vertice. So the vertices are at h plus or minus a comma k, which would be 2 plus or minus 2 comma 3. So we have 0, 3, and 4, 3. Does that match with what I graphed? All right, foci. What's C, guys? If I add those together, I get, yeah, C is the square root of 5. So they would be at 2 plus or minus the square root of 5, 3. Just barely inside there, I think. Anybody doing that for me? 2 plus the square root of 5. It's like 4.1, I think. They're just barely inside there. And then the asymptotes, y minus what? Equals, and this one is going to be x minus 2. The slope is change in y over change in x, which is almost. It's b over a, so it's 1/2, right? Isn't that what our box did when up 1 and over 2? Because this is a squared. Yep, we got to square root it. Okay, Xavier and I are getting this. I'm not hearing anything else. Is everybody okay? Is there something I went too fast? You don't know where I got something? All right, I'm moving on. So today we're going to have to write equations. I don't know if you have this one or not, but I always have to sketch these because it helps me to determine which way it's going. If I just look at the numbers, it's kind of a hot mess for me. If I sketch this, it says go left 3 and down 6, left 3 and up 2, and those are the vertices. So does that tell me right away that it's opening this way? Okay, so I'm looking for an equation that has a y minus k and x minus h. Okay, then they tell us the foci are at 1 unit inside of here. Okay, that's interesting. Can anybody tell me how we are going to start this? Okay, is there a better way to just find the center? The center is the midpoint of either the vertices or the foci, right? So if we -3 for the x, that's true, and -6 plus 2 would be -4, divided by 2 would be -2, so left 3 and down 2 seems like the middle. Okay, so there's the center, that seems okay. So we have a lot already, right? What does the top look like? y minus k. And then a minus, right. Okay. We actually also know A, if we think about it. A conceptually is the distance here that we went up and down to the vertices. Okay, how far apart were these vertices? From 2 to negative 6 was 8, so A is actually 4 up and 4 down, so what goes under here? Yes, a 4 squared. Okay, now the problem is in finding B. Okay, what's the equation for foci? Can you, the foci are at H, comma, K plus or minus C, that's what you're telling me? Okay, so if H is negative 3 and K is negative 2 plus or minus C, and that point wound up at negative 3, negative 7 maybe? Okay, so negative 2 plus or minus C was negative 7. So plus or minus C is, if I add 2 over there, I have negative 5. Doesn't really matter. The distance is 5 for C. Okay, so C squared is 25. And what's the formula? C squared equals A squared plus B squared when it's hyperbola, right? 16, 25, 9 is B squared. Anybody? Did I subtract right? So what goes down here? Just 9, right? That one was tricky. I'll give you that because they gave us the foci, but we got there. Some of us. Oh, guess what? Yeah, one with a foci. Here we go. All right. I'm going to sketch real fast. Left all the way to the 10 and up 6. Right 4 and up 6. Though there's the vertices. What does that tell me right away? Tells me a lot. It opens left and right. So my general equation is going to be x minus h, y minus k, and over a squared and b squared. What else do you know just from those vertices? Can we find the center? The center is the midpoint. Some of you still find midpoint wrong, guys. Do you subtract and divide by 2? No. You add and divide by 2. So if I add these, I get negative 6 divided by 2 is, and 6 plus 6 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. So there's my h and k. So my equation is what? Okay, we actually can find A pretty easily. Do you want to use a formula or you don't want to use a formula? The formula would tell you where the vertices are. On a sideways opening one, is it H plus or minus A comma K? Is that what it says, guys? Okay, and we know H is negative 3. And there was a vertice at like 4, 6. So 4 equals negative 3 plus or minus A. I'm thinking A is 7. Now, if you went back up here, we could have done that conceptually, like Xavier said. This was over negative 10 to the left, and this was 4 to the right. Is that 14, guys? So it's 7 here and 7 here. So this is 49, 7 squared. All right, what did we have to do first on the last one, my example? We have to find C. What's the equation for foci? H plus or minus C comma K? And one of the foci is at, I'll use 6, 6. And H is -3. So if 6 equals -3 plus or minus C, that means C is 9. So C squared is 81. And C squared equals A squared plus B squared. We already have 49 plus B squared. So 81 minus 49, 32. Now that's B squared, and that's really all we want, right? It's ugly, we don't have to graph it. We're done. Okay? The other possibility is that they will give us, we're skipping this one, I don't know if you have this one. The length of the transverse axis actually means that A is half of that, but I didn't give you that on a quiz, so I'm just going to skip it. On the quiz, I give you some asymptotes possibly. There is a trick to this, and I think this might be a tricky one. We'll see what happens. Anybody remember what happens? All I really care about the asymptote is the slope, because they've put it in a different form. But the slope of an asymptote is either A over B or B over A. Do you remember that? Okay. But are A and B necessarily 3 and 4? What did we do even way back here on this question? No, not that one. This one. These were A and B, right? But when we got down here, we reduced. So it is possible that the slope here is not really a 3 over a 4. It could be been like a 6 over a 8 or a 9 over a 12 or something, okay? So we got to keep that in mind. All right. Now this gives us foci, but will that still help us tell which way it's opening and find the center? Yeah, I think we're good. The midpoint is still the center. 2 plus 12 divided by 2 and -2 plus -2 divided by 2 puts the center at 7, -2. Anybody? Okay. So if I do a little sketch, I'm over 7 down 2, that's the center. Over 2 down 2 is a foci, and over 10 down 2 is a foci. So somewhere in here are our vertices, right? Because the foci are inside the little loops. Anybody lost? Okay. But what do you know about how the equation looks? Yes. X minus h squared, y minus k, because we know it opens sideways. All right. And it's x minus 7 and y plus 2. So in theory, we could find a and b from the slope. Okay, when it opens sideways, the slope is b over a. Okay, so this should be b over a. B over a should equal 3/4. The problem is, what is C? Can anybody help me find C? From the center out to that foci is C. From 7, -2 out to 2, -2, C is 5. I think A and B are probably 3 and 4, don't you? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. I don't think they're doubled or anything if C is 5. So what goes where? Yeah, this is supposed to be a squared, which would be 16, because a is 4. B is 3, so this would be 9. Could you handle that one on a quiz? Wasn't too bad, right? All right, I have a couple more practice. Do you have these or not? Okay, these are just extra practice. I have given vertices. Oh, we're even better shape. Okay. Given the vertices, so can we find the center? What's in the middle of 9, 11, or 9, 15 and 9, negative 11? 9 something. What's 15 and negative 11 would be? 4 divided by 2 would be 2. Okay. If we went over 9 and up 15 and over 9 and down 11, this is opening up and down. So it starts with what? Y minus 2 minus x minus 9 equals 1. Okay, if this is a vertice and this is a vertice and the center was at 9, 2 and this was 9, 15, that distance is a, guys. How far is it from 2 to 15? What is this then? I feel like some of you are just lost. And it's opening up and down, then the slope is a over b right there. Okay, no, I know, you're with me, I'm just... So this is a over b. So a squared would be 13 squared and b squared would be 81. All right. This one, if I have, where's the center? As somebody besides Xavier or Martin. What's 6 plus negative 4, guys? 2 divided by 2 is 5, 1 is the center. Okay, is this opening up, down, left, right? Over 5, up 6, over 5, down 4, over 5, up 1. Okay, my scale is really bad, but it's opening what? Up and down again. So it's y minus thank you, squared minus okay. Now, on the sheet, it says when it opens up and down, the slope is a over b. But we got to make sure a is really 5. From 5, 1, this was up at 5, 6. Is that a distance of 5? Yeah, it is, right? So a is just 5. So what goes under here? 5 squared, and under here? Because it's a is 5 and b is 12. All right. Number 6 is an application. It says the epicenter of an earthquake lies on a branch of the hyperbola represented by this, where the seismographs are located at the foci. Graph and find the location of the seismographs. Where's the center, guys? Oh, great. I can hardly imagine what this graph paper, what are we counting by 20s? Okay, so 50. And counting this way, we're counting by 10. So 50, 35 is somewhere in there. And it goes up and down by how much? No, left and right. Square root of that, a is 40, and it's under the x, so it goes left and right 40. which is 2 boxes. And up and down 50, which is 5 boxes, right? Because they're counting by tens. Isn't that off the bottom? Okay. Which way is this opening? Okay, so it's here. And over here. Do we need practice finding the rest? Like asymptotes? Would be y minus 35 and x minus 50. And this would be plus or minus, is it b over a or a over b? Yes, 50 over 40 would be 5/4 is the slope. Okay, we need the foci though, because it says what? That's where the seismographs are. So the foci, we didn't even find the vertices. The vertices were at 50 plus or minus 40. And then 35 back here. So we'd have 90, 35, and 10, 35. But the foci, the equation is h plus or minus c, which is 50 plus or minus, and we didn't find c yet, comma k, which is 35. Okay. C, anybody know what c is? C squared equals a squared plus b squared. And then square root that. That's going to be a decimal or radical, but I really don't care about the radical. 40 squared plus 50 squared is 4,100. The square root of that is 10 square roots of 41, or about 64. Is that what you got? So that would be about 114 approximately and 35. And the other direction, if we do subtract, it would be about negative 14 and 35. All right, good enough. Just practice. And we learned the fact that they can measure the epicenter of an earthquake. Maybe. We're going to skip this one so that we can talk about eccentricity. All right, the definition of eccentricity, again, describe what it had anything to do with an ellipse over there on the wall, guys. Do you remember? It's C over A, but the eccentricity, if I tell you the eccentricity is really small, it made it really, our oval really skinny some way, because it was eccentricity of 1 meant, no, eccentricity of 0. Oh, I lied. Really small means it's almost circular. Because what happens when we put the foci right on top of each other? Circle. So that's when it's 0. All right. So the distance between the foci is 0 for a circle. So the eccentricity is 0 for a circle. For an ellipse, it was somewhere between 0 and 1. And the closer it was to 0, the closer it was to a circle. Okay? Now, there's only one focus point on what shape? What did we do the first part of the end of last week? All of last week? parabolas, okay? One focus point is a parabola. So the eccentricity of a parabola is 1. What do you think that means for a hyperbola? What is the distance between the foci versus the distance between the vertices? Which is going to be greater? When you have a hyperbola, the distance between the vertices is 2a, between the foci is 2c. Yes, c is bigger. So if c is bigger than a, when you divide them, you're going to get a number greater than 1. Does that make any sense to two of you who are paying attention? Because the hyperbolas are further apart than the vertices. All right. There's a picture about all that. Do you have this little box anywhere? Okay. Under somewhere. What page are we on? 8B? Okay. So on 8B, you have this little box. This shows that for an ellipse, the eccentricity will always be between, E, that's supposed to be an E, between 0 and 1. For a hyperbola, the eccentricity will always be greater than 1. Guys, that's on your reference sheet. It's in a little box underneath ellipses. And in the paragraph, it says that, right? Underneath the ellipses. All right, parabola, eccentricity is 1, and the eccentricity of a circle is 0. I used to ask that on a quiz, but I didn't. And the last couple of years, that just doesn't matter. All right, do you have this example? Okay, did I rearrange or are those numbers what you have? Okay, well, apparently we need to change that. We can do this little bitty one over here though first. Do you know A and B and C on this one? A is 2, B is the square root of 21, but C is the square root of, nope, square root of 25, which is 5. So the eccentricity is always C over A, which would be 5 over 2. Is that greater than 1? So it works. All right, that was example 1A, this one right up here. Now I have this mess. Can you change yours to look like this, please? Because I must have. I know why, because the one on the quiz has this negative out front business. Okay, so we're going to take out a -4 of the x's. What will be left for x's, guys? X squared plus 8x plus blank. What are we going to take out of the y's? +9. So it'll say y squared minus 10y plus blank. Equals -125 plus a couple blanks. Okay. So just worrying about what's in parentheses for a minute, that would become x, half of +8 is +4, squared is 16. There's still a -4 up front, but what do I put on the other side? Okay, everybody good? +9. Now, just looking at what's in the parenthesis, what happens here? Y minus 5 squared means in the blank goes a 25, but 9 times 25 is 225. Okay, so on that side I have -125 minus 64 plus 225. I got 36. Anybody else? Positive 36, right? So now what do I need to divide everything by? 36. But did we ever have one with a minus on the front? So what do we need to do to make this look like our sheet? No, because that'll be a -1 over here. Yeah, we're going to move this quantity to the front. So 9 goes into 36 4 times. We'll have y minus 5 squared over 4 minus 4 goes into 36 9 times. So we'll have x plus 4 squared over 9 equals 1. Eccentricity we're supposed to find. A equals what? 2, B equals 3, C equals the square root of 4 plus 9, or 13. So E equals the square root of 13 over 2. I think it asked you to estimate it on the quiz to the nearest hundredth. I got 1.80. Which is greater than 1, which is what it's supposed to be. All right. So you have 6 more questions to do tonight. I'm guessing like maybe these 3 are completing the square and these 3 are writing the equation, okay? Quiz review is in the back. Make sure you pick it up because tomorrow we review for a quiz. Thursday we take a quiz. Friday we do some more test prep maybe. Yeah, I've heard some of you might not be here or won't be here on time or... What is it for? Oh, health fair career. Okay. And who's all going? Did you have to sign up or?
Our counselors, at least mine did, like, if you retire, like,
you want to do something medical?
They like those kids got like a priority, I think.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can take the quiz in class on Friday if you want. Adrian, are you hearing me? If you're going to that, you can take the quiz in class on Friday, okay? Because I don't have 5th hour that day, so we're just doing some filler stuff, okay? Any questions? Oh, yeah, record.